Hare Krishna. So we are very fortunate to have His Grace Devakinandan Prabhuji with us. Devakinandan Prabhuji is a disciple of His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. Prabhuji actually is a practicing lawyer by profession, and he's based in Singapore for many years. And on a specific request of his Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, Prabhuji travels extensively to preach the message of Srimad Bhagavatam in many parts of the world. And Prabhuji has started congregation preaching in Singapore, which is flourishing like anything. And he's lovingly cultivating devotees there in Singapore. Prabhuji also oversees ISKCON temples in Dwarka and Rajkot in Gujarat, India. And Prabhuji is a very prolific preacher of Srimad Bhagavatam and a wonderful Kirtan leader. We are very, very fortunate to have Prabhuji with us. He's very busy in many services, but on kind request of His Grace Govardhan Prabhuji has kindly accepted our request. So we are very thankful to you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Sri Gaur Prabhu and all the devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Actually, it is my fortune that I'm able to come and join you all and have this wonderful opportunity to take darshan of the devotees and to remember the holy name of the Lord. I know I was scheduled previously for the last one session, but then I didn't realize that I already had a program. I apologize for that actually. But now, at least by Krishna's arrangement, I'm able to meet all of you and speak to you. The beauty of Zoom meetings now today is that at least, even if we are not traveling physically to Bangalore, we are able to actually meet all of you in person this way. I was very inspired to hear from Sri Gaur Prabhu yesterday when I spoke to him briefly about how this wonderful initiative of coming together and chanting is going on. And this is actually not easy because the mind, gives us so many excuses not to chant. Very often the mind's nature in this material world is that, it will find very favorable arguments. It will find very favorable arguments to tell us, you don't have to chant today, you can chant tomorrow. Like this, the mind is always thinking. I have about half an hour today, so I thought, let me just share some perspectives on chanting. Some of this you may have heard from other exalted speakers, but I can only share what I know. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Actually, the whole principle of chanting Krishna's names is actually premised on one important principle in Nectar of Devotion. And why this is important for us is in our generation, and I think many of us are in the same generation, either between 30 to 50, somewhere there, we will find very often that we do not take up spiritual practices until we understand why we are doing something. We are all from that generation where we want to know why we have to do something. Previously, when we were younger, our parents told us, now you bow here, you do this, you do that on this day, you fast. And when we used to ask them, very often they did not give many nice explanation because they were unable to. It was difficult for them to do that. And therefore, we just followed because they said you follow. But today, things are a bit different. Because our parents worked very hard and gave us education, we are at a stage of our life where we want to understand why we're doing something. And therefore, that is why when we understand the value of doing something, then that value appreciates. If you don't understand the value of doing something, then that value depreciates, actually. That's why the word appreciation is very nice in English. Not only does it mean that we should be grateful for something, but when we are grateful for something, its value actually increases. Like all of us have our family members, they support us in Krishna consciousness. And sometimes if we don't appreciate them, then their value in our eyes actually depreciates. And that is not a very nice thing. So appreciation of why we do something is very important. And that is why even in chanting, our sastras have taken so much pains to tell us why we have to do something. Chanting of the holy names, what you all are doing every day so nicely early in the morning in India, is actually premised on this point of nectar of devotion, where Rupa Goswami says very nicely Yena tena prakarena manaha Krishne niveshayat. Sarve vidhi nisheda shur etayor eva kinkaraha. Kinkaraha is very important. Kinkara means to be a servant. And therefore, Nectar of Devotion says that one should fix his mind on Krishna by any means. All the rules and regulations, all the rules and prohibitions that are mentioned in the Sastras, they should all be servants to this principle. So when we chant Krishna's names, the reason why we chant Krishna's names is actually that we should fix our minds somehow or another on Krishna. And in this day and age of Kali Yuga, you will find, practically speaking, that the moment you chant Krishna's names, it becomes very easy to remember him. That is the reason why we do this. The whole aim of our spiritual life is somehow or another we must remember Krishna and we must never forget him. And the easiest way, the most sublime way to actually remember Krishna is to actually chant his names. Even in material world, when you keep saying the name of your loved ones, you will, in fact, naturally it will incite remembrance. That is why Shravanam, right, and Kirtanam go together. Because what you want to hear actually stays in your mind. So you will realize that when you are chanting, and I'm sure all of you are doing this, one of the most important principles in chanting is that when you chant the holy names of the Lord, you should be able to hear what you are chanting. The clearer your chanting is, then the easier it is for you to hear it. The easier it is for you to hear, the more quickly your mind comes under control. And once one hears the holy name of the Lord, in Bhagavatam, it is stated very nicely, Pravishta Karna Randrena, Pravishta Karna Randrena. It is in the second canto, 8th chapter. I think it's the 4th or 5th or 6th verse. It is very nicely stated there that when one hears, when we hear anything connected to Krishna, whether it is the holy name, whether it is reading from Bhagavatam, anything, as long as we are hearing about Krishna and we are hearing his names, then the effect of the name is it enters into the ears and it sits on the lotus flower of the loving relationship between us and Krishna. It's a very beautiful verse, sitting on the lotus flower of our loving relationship with Krishna. So the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra that we chant is very precious because it gives us the ability to connect with Krishna directly. And that is why one of the most important things, and something that devotees, no matter how many years we are chanting, whether we are chanting for a few months or whether we are chanting for a few years, the most important principle when we chant is that we should be able to hear clearly the names. If you are a teacher and you went into a classroom, you'll find when you enter the classroom, normally all of us are speaking and there's a change in class. At that point of time, we're very distracted, isn't it? So when teacher walks in, some of the good students will keep quiet. Most of us will keep talking actually. And then the teacher may say, okay, everyone keep quiet. Now, if he says it at that level, nobody hears you because their volume is higher than you. But if you say, everyone keep quiet, then immediately everyone's ears picks up because we become attentive to hearing the sound or the volume at which we are speaking. Even in mundane world, when we are able to connect hearing, right? The moment we can hear something, our mind is actually captured by the hearing. And therefore, when we chant Krishna's names very clearly, you'll find that the mind, even if it wants to go anywhere else, because it keeps hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is very difficult for the mind to actually run hither and thither. It's a very practical thing, but it's based on the principle of Shravanam. So this is a very important point that, I have found very helpful in my chanting. But I find that very often that it's easier said than done because if you're alone and you're chanting and you're moving around and you're thinking, very often chanting during the time of our chanting, if you're not careful, your chanting session becomes the session for planning for the day, especially when you wake up in the morning. You want to chant Krishna's names, but your mind will start saying, okay, after chanting, I will do this, I will do that. But it's going on. Your chanting is going on, but your mind is everywhere else. That is not very palatable. Imagine when we chant Krishna's names, what are we doing? We're actually inviting Krishna into our house, into our heart. That is why we are chanting someone's names. When we chant the Supreme Lord's name, We are saying, we are invoking his energy, and we are saying, Krishna, please keep me always engaged in your transcendental loving service. It's inviting Krishna into our hearts. You invite someone to your house, you tell them to sit down, then you go and do everything else. It feels like I am a guest, but I'm not really invited. So we call Krishna by calling his name. But when we call his name, we must give him our attention. That is very important. Because the more we are attentive to Krishna's names, the more we will become attracted to Krishna's names. Very often devotees ask the question, I'm chanting his name so many years, but I have no attraction. Kunti Mata, I think it is in first canto, I think 8th chapter, maybe 42nd verse, 1:842. She says very nicely there in that shloka, she says, Gange Vauham Udanmati. In other words, she's praying to Krishna that somehow or another, all my thoughts, they must all run to your lotus feet. Just like all the waters, of the Ganges, it all runs into the ocean. In the same way, I must do that also. But one point she says in that shloka is very nice. In order to have matihi of Krishna, if we want to have ratihi, if we want to have attraction for Krishna, then we must have matihi of Krishna. Krishna mati will lead to Krishna rati. So therefore, to the extent that you are attentive to hearing the name of the Lord, to that extent, Krishna will allow us to become attracted to him. That is the very important formula. From attention comes attraction. And it is true even of mundane relationships in this world. Even in this world, supposing a husband and wife are there and they are living together. The important thing about how they continue their attraction to each other, even in material world, is based on how much attentive they are to each other's needs. If you're not attentive to my needs, after a while, right, you will lose attraction for me. In the same way, if I'm not attentive to your need, after a while, I will lose attraction for you. Therefore, everything starts by being attentive to hearing. And that is why, we humbly request devotees and we humbly request our own minds, the rascal mind, to always, when we chant, we should chant with attention. It's very important. We should create an atmosphere in such a way that we can chant Krishna's names with attention. But in order to chant Krishna's names with attention, Shastras are very helpful to us. How are they helpful? They give us the glories of the holy name. They give us faith. Shastras create faith in the holy name for us. And Srimad Bhagavatam, as the king of the scriptures, is non-different from Krishna. There's a very nice shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's in the 3rd canto, 33rd chapter, I think 7th verse. Srila Prabhupada, 7th verse. Srila Prabhupada liked this shloka. If you look at the reference of the shloka in Bhagavad Gita, I think he quotes it at least 2 times, if not 3 times. And this is a shloka chanted by Devahuti Mata, who was a very exalted devotee, and whose son was Kapila Dev. And Kapila Dev is non-different from Krishna. So actually, towards the end of her time with Kapila Dev, she chants a very important shloka glorifying the holy names of the Lord in Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is found in the 3rd canto, 33rd chapter, 7th shloka. Aho bataswa pachato gariyan yajjivagre vartate namatubhyam tapustapaste Jusashnu Arya Brahmanuchu Namagranantiyete. It's a very nice shloka actually. And here, Devahuti Mata is saying a very important point. She tells us something very astonishing. She says, how glorious are those whose tongues are chanting your holy names. This is the first point that's very important. It is a glorious activity to chant Krishna's names. It is not a mundane activity. It is glorious because it is spiritual. What is the main difference between spirit and matter? Matter is temporary. Spirit is eternal. That's the main difference. But how does that practically come out in our lives? You will understand one thing. If you hear any material or mundane sound, like music, you hear any music that's coming out anywhere, whether it's in Hollywood or Bollywood or Tollywood, doesn't matter. You will realize one very interesting thing. These songs become popular and everyone is singing them. But after a while, they lose their popularity. because they're not absolute in nature. And that is why another song will come. And then your mind will keep singing that song ad nauseum until you can't take it. Then you will also lose interest. And then you'll go on to the next song. But you can chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for the rest of your life. And you will realize that you will never tire of it. In difficult moments, you chant. In pleasing moments, you chant. In defining moments, you chant. In peaceful moments, you chant. Chanting is always blissful. You try, I'm not recommending it, but if this congregation decided tomorrow for 20 minutes or 30 minutes to chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, you'll realize after 15 minutes, you can't take it anymore. Because chanting Coca-Cola doesn't make you, any less thirsty. Chanting Coca-Cola doesn't mean Coca-Cola appears in front of you. But chanting Krishna's names is very different. You can chant and chant and chant. And if you're attentive, you will feel that I can chant more. I can chant more. This is the happiness that we're looking for all over the world. I don't know about you, but when I was young, I realized one thing, that happiness in this material world is very temporary. Srila Prabhupada defined happiness as temporary cessation of misery. It's a very nice definition. It's like, you have a headache and you want to take a painkiller. So you take the painkiller, paracetamol, Panadol, whatever you call it. But everyone knows that the painkiller is a temporary cessation of your miserable headache. It's meant to be a suppression, right? It's a suppressant. So it doesn't cure your headache. It just, for a while, makes it stop. Material things are like that. Material sounds are like that. But if you use the name of the Lord well in your life and chant it as a form of service to the Lord, then you will find that the names are so glorious that no matter what situation it is, we never get tired of them. And that happiness is very eternal. Otherwise, material happiness is dependent on circumstances. But for chanting, there are no circumstances that make chanting better. Chanting itself is perfect. Whether you chant half-heartedly, wholeheartedly, there is still effect. Chanting is like fire. The fire doesn't discriminate between a child or an adult. Whether the child touches the fire or the adult touches the fire, fire will burn, because the nature of fire is to burn. The nature of the holy name is to transform. It is to transcend. It is to purify. So no matter where we have come from, no matter what background we came from, no matter what practices we are doing, some of us may have started chanting, but we may still be doing some other things, Sometimes we have some other ceremonies we do, some other beliefs we do. But we tell devotees, don't be discouraged. Whatever you are doing, you just add Krishna at the beginning, you add Krishna in the center, and you add the chanting at the end, and it becomes perfect. In the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, first chapter, I think it's 15th verse, in that purport, Prabhupada writes something very amazing. Srila Prabhupada says, if we begin our activities for the satisfaction of Krishna. In other words, today, all of you are starting your day by chanting Krishna's names for his satisfaction. You know what Srila Prabhupada says? Srila Prabhupada says, we will gradually lose taste for material activities. We will perform them because we have to perform them. It's our duty. But our taste for spiritual activities will increase. That is the beauty of chanting Krishna's names. And Krishna's names are so powerful. And that is why Mother Devahuti says in this verse, Aho bataswa pachato gariyan. How glorious are those whose tongues are chanting the holy names of the Lord. Why? Because even if they are born in the most lowly families of dog eaters, even if you're born in the most disqualified manner, such persons are considered worshipable. Forget the holy name. Holy name is very worshipable. But even when we chant, we are nobody. But even by chanting Krishna's names, that Brahma Sparshanam is there, that touch. A spark that has come from the fire has all the qualities of fire, isn't it? In the same way, when we are chanting Krishna's names, all the qualities of Krishna, by his mercy, are manifest in the devotee, in quality. It's a very important point that Devahuti Mata says. Then she goes on to say something very astonishing. She says, persons who are chanting the holy names of your Lordship, meaning Krishna's names, they must have executed all kinds of austerities. They must have executed all kinds of fire sacrifices. And they must have achieved all good manners of Aryan and Vedic culture. If they have chanted the holy name of the Lord, they have actually been considered to bathe at all the holy places, all the tirthas. You have considered to have taken bath, and you have considered to have gone to all the yatras, all the pilgrimages. It is considered by chanting Krishna's names that all the import and study of the Vedas are fulfilled. So just see, by chanting Krishna's names, what is so amazing is that we do not have to perform any other activity to achieve any other goal. The goal of austerity, the goal of penance, the goal of all the yajnas and the homams that we do, the goal of all the yatras we take and the tirthas that we bathe in, are all to purify our consciousness. But all of that is automatically done, Prabhus and Matajis, just by chanting Krishna's names. Just by chanting Krishna's names. So you can sit wherever you are, and you may not be able to go to Vrindavan today physically. But if you chant attentively, lovingly, sincerely, attentively, Krishna's mercy, all that you can achieve in Vrindavan Dham, you will get by chanting Krishna's names. That is the greatness of chanting. And this is a seminal verse that Prabhupada quotes so many times in Bhagavad Gita and in other parts of Bhagavatam. That is why it is so nicely stated also in Bhagavatam, right in the beginning, in the first canto of Bhagavatam, the sages are seated, right, in Naimisharanya, and they're talking about devotional service. And they bring up this very important point. Apannaha samsrite goram, yan nama vivasho granan, tataha sadhyo vimuccheta, yad bibheti swayam bhayam. Bhayam, you all know, fear. In this whole world, the most difficult thing that we are trying to rid of is fear. Some people say, actually, I don't have much fear. But if you don't have fear, definitely the cousin of fear you have. And the cousin of fear is anxiety. All of us have some kind of anxiety. I know it's a Sunday there, so you're not working. But all the problems of Monday will come on your head as Sunday passes by. It will start coming. And on Monday, when you think you've finished all your problems and there's no anxiety for the week, guess what? By Monday night, some other anxiety will come into your mind. It's like that. When we are young, we are thinking, oh, somebody else is doing very nicely. They are thinking you are doing very nicely. Everyone is anxiously looking to becoming better. But in their quest to become better, they are always anxious, isn't it? So anxiety and fear, they're always in our heart. And the only way Bhagavatam tells us, this is a very complicated mesh. That's why it's known as Samsrite Goram. Goram means ghastly, Living beings who are entangled in these complicated meshes of birth and death. Bhagavatam tells us we can become freed even if we unconsciously chant Krishna's names. Unconsciously, if we chant Krishna's names. Why? Because Krishna's name, right, is feared by fear personified. Imagine. Fear personified fears Krishna's names. So why do we have to fear anything in this world? Why do we have to be riddled with anxiety? By chanting Krishna's names, Krishna will give us the intelligence by which we can handle all these difficulties in life. He will give us the intelligence. Buddhi Yogam, right? This Buddhi Yogam is so important, right? Tesham Satata Yuktanam. So nice. Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. If we lovingly, take up this devotional service, chanting of Krishna, the Dhami Buddhi Yogam Tam. How nice, how nice. Yena mam upayanti te. By Krishna's mercy, he will give us the intelligence. He will give us the intelligence. You all must have heard of Akbar and Birbal, isn't it? We all know Akbar and Birbal. There's a very nice story, of Birbal. You all know that Birbal was a great devotee of Lord Ram, actually. And wherever he went with Akbar, he would never miss his appointed time with Lord. Our appointed time with the Lord is the time we spend chanting his names. That is our appointment. You make appointment for dentist, doctor. These are not appointments we look forward to. But we always look forward to the appointment with the Lord. So it is stated that Birbal, he never missed 7 p.m. Whatever happens, he would sit down and he would chant the holy names of the Lord. So one time, Akbar and Birbal, they were traveling incognito. And they often did that to see the country and how people were doing. They were traveling a little far and they were disguised. And they came across a forest. And after a while, they had to cross it. But time was coming for Birbal to sit down and chant the names of the Lord. So he told Akbar, it is my time to chant. I'm going to sit down and chant. Akbar said, be practical. You and I are hungry. We are thirsty. We need to find a place. Put aside your time with the Lord. Let's go and find some food. And then you can chant. Akbar, Birbal said, I have faith in the Lord because whatever I am chanting, if he wants, he will take care of me. We just have to chant Krishna's names. Krishna maintains us. This is premised on a very important shloka in Bhagavad Gita. Ananyas chintayantumam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. I think it's 922 of Bhagavad Gita. There it is so nicely stated by Krishna to Arjuna that Ananyas, Ananya means that we are not moving here and there. We are undeviated in our bhakti. Just like we should always be undeviated when it comes to chanting Krishna's names. Be faithful to Krishna. Be attentive to him. When you have time for him, sit down and spend that time with him. So when we are dedicated and put time aside for Krishna, then we are prioritizing Krishna in our life. Ananyas chintayantumam to Krishna. Ye janaha paryupasate. So it's very important. Tesham nitya abhiyuktanam. For those who do this, Krishna guarantees a very important point in Bhagavad Gita. He says, if you are undeviated in your devotional service to me, which includes chanting, of course, then two things will happen. I will give you what you lack, and I will preserve what you have. What an amazing point. As a lawyer, one of my work that I do in corporate world is to draft deeds of guarantees for clients. I have done so many guarantees for clients, but I've never seen a guarantee like this. Is someone's phone? Thank you. I have done so many guarantees in material world. I guarantee you pay me this, you will get this. But I have never seen a guarantee written out like 922 of Bhagavad Gita. Because you don't lose anything when you take up devotional service. Krishna says, whatever that you have, don't worry. Some people take up Krishna consciousness, but they're afraid. If I start chanting, my family may get upset. I may lose some things. My lifestyle will go. But Krishna says, don't worry. Whatever you have, I will preserve. It will not disrupt us. It will enhance what we have. And whatever that you lack, Krishna says, I will give you. So actually, what else we need? Very often our argument for not chanting is that I'm going to lose something. But Krishna says, you won't lose anything now. So there's nothing to lose. So in that mood, Birbal said, I'm going to sit down, Akbar. You do whatever you want. So Akbar left, he walked around, and finally, after so much effort, he found a village. After more effort, he convinced them that he's actually Akbar because he was in disguise, and he asked for some food. So he took some food, and before leaving, he was thinking, actually, poor Birbal, such a foolish fella, sitting down there and chanting. I'm full now, but I'm not a bad person. I will pack some food for him, and I'll bring it for him. So he went all the way back to see Birbal. And he said, Birbal, you see the value of being practical? You sat down and chanted the Lord's names, but I took the initiative to go and I got the food. And what have you got? If not for my kindness, the food is not going to be here for you. It's only because I thought of you that it came. And Birbal said, this is exactly my point, Akbar. Because I chanted the holy names of the Lord arranged that you should have the intelligence to pack some food for me. You had to work very hard to look around and get the place. And in the end, I did not lose anything. I could still chant the names of the Lord, and the Lord has also supplied me with some food. So what do we lose? Very simple point, but very powerful actually. That is why this shloka in Bhagavatam is very important. We should not ever think that by chanting Krishna's names, we are at a lower stage of spiritual activity, that we are on a sentimental stage of spiritual activity. That actually the real activity of spiritual life is to do yajnas and homams and visit this place and visit that place. They are helpful, no doubt. Going to take bath in the Ganges, going to Vrindavan, going to Mayapur, they're very important. But daily we are not going these places. Daily our appointment with Krishna has to be rooted in the chanting of the holy name. And when we do that, all the tirthas come to us. All the yatras come to us. All the effects of austerity and penances come to us. And finally, all good behavior will manifest in our life. There must always be a connection, Prabhus and Matajis, between our chanting and our behavior. There's a very deep and subtle connection. And I want to end by chanting this shloka from Bhagavatam, which proves to us the point of behavior and its relationship to chanting. Narada Muni, as a small boy, lost his mother, and but he did not lose faith in Krishna because he had so much association with devotees. And that is a very important point in chanting. When we chant, our faith is created and improved by sadhu sangha. That's why this initiative by Sri Gaur Prabhu and all of you are an amazing thing. Every day by coming together, your faith in Krishna is growing because you're chanting together. It may be Zoom, but you're still coming together. You're making a commitment to Krishna. And therefore, Narada did the same thing. And after intense penance and chanting Krishna's names, he got darshan of Krishna. And after that, what happened? Because he got darshan of Krishna, because of chanting Krishna's names, he did this very nice thing. Namani anantasya hata tapa pratan guyani badrani kritani chasmaran gam paryatams tushtamana spraha kalam pratikshan vimado vimatsaraha. And in this verse, I think it is 1:626 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Muni says this point. I began chanting his holy names and fame. That's what he did. He chanted the holy name and the holy fame of the Lord. And how did he do it? With repeated recitation. Repeatedly, we keep chanting Krishna's names. And by doing that, we will ignore all formalities of the material world. There will be so many formalities, but somehow or another, it will not catch us. Narada Muni says in that shloka, such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes and vibrations of the Lord are very benedictory. And as he traveled all over the world, chanting Krishna's names, three things happened to him. He became fully satisfied, he became humble, and he was non-envious. So when we chant Krishna's names, to the extent of the quality of our chanting, we can actually see that these qualities will manifest. We will become satisfied in life. We will, by Krishna's mercy, become humbler. And by Krishna's mercy, we hope that envy will also leave our hearts. Such are the glories of the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki. Thank you, Sri Gaur Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful session like it is. It's really going to be life-changing for many devotees who have heard this and who will be hearing this in future. I just want to open the floor for questions. Just want to check if anyone has any question. You all can unmute if you want to, or you can raise your hand.
And it's nice to see you also.
Same here, Prabhuji. We have heard a few and heard your classes, but yeah, for the first time because of Zoom, we are able to see you. Yeah. Devakinandan Prabhuji has been a guiding principle for many, many devotees in ISKCON.
No.
Fortunate.
I'm just happy to be here. I wish you all the best, Prabhus, Matajis, in your chanting. Don't be discouraged. Many problems will come in life, but that's natural. We are born in this world. Naturally, there will be challenges, but the challenges make our chanting sweeter. When something is precious and you go through difficulty to maintain it, it becomes more precious. Isn't it true? So when we try very hard to keep chanting Krishna's names, don't be discouraged. Sometimes the power of the illusory energy of the Lord is great. And sometimes when you chant, Krishna will test you also. Suddenly, sometimes people chant and they say, oh, after chanting, I had so many problems. Actually, it's not the problems that came after chanting. It's just testing our faith. When you put up pictures, I took down some pictures here, but there are some nails here. Anybody who's knocked nails into the wall, they will know one thing. Before you hang a very valuable photo or a picture frame, you will put a nail in the wall. After that, before you put it, it's very natural that we will test the strength of the nail, right? Just to make sure it is strong before you can actually hang or put that picture up. When we chant Krishna's names, all the material dirt and anarthas and unwanted habits, like dust in a room which has been settled for so long, you walk into such a room, you think it's very clean, but actually the dust is there, it's deep. So when you start your cleaning, transcendental cleaning, all the dust will come out. And at that point of time, you will feel, oh, the time it's very unbearable. But it is necessary. Necessary. So when we chant, it is like Krishna just testing that nail to see whether we are prepared now for him to hang, or frame himself in our hearts, actually. So don't be discouraged. Come what may, keep chanting. Krishna's names are very powerful, but only do one thing. When you chant, give him your undivided attention. Please try to do that. It may not always work, but Krishna sees your effort. He sees your effort. Krishna is always looking at the mentality of the devotee. He doesn't see results. If he sees his devotee is sincerely trying, he will create a favorable environment for you to chant. Don't worry. That's the best thing I can share with you, Prabhus and Matajis.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. And Prabhuji, you said that our, scriptures, studying and reading of scriptures, it facilitates in better and attentive chant, right?
Yes, very much, Prabhu. By studying Srila Prabhupada's books and the scriptures, we will create more faith in chanting. And by chanting very nicely and lovingly, we will become more attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. So these two go very much hand in hand. They both help each other, actually. So that's why as we chant, to create more value in chanting, to understand now chanting, you will never know the value of diamond until you study it. Then you will know the value of diamond. Otherwise, you would think this is valueless. If you are a little boy and you hold a diamond, you use it as a stone, right? If you are a rickshawala and you don't know the value of diamond, you will take it to scrap the calluses on your feet. But only for one who knows the value of diamond, they will treat diamond as it should be. So we have to understand the value of the holy name through sastras.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So before ending, Shubhlas Prabhuji, do you have any comment or question?
Yeah, I would like to thank His Grace Devakinandan Prabhuji. He has given his valuable time for all of us. His Grace Devakinandan Prabhu ki jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Prabhupada ki. Thank you very much for your association. I wish you all the best in your spiritual life.
Thank you
if I
very
can
much.
be of service, please let me know. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.